It's still wild to me that Israel has a law against genetic testing. Why would you need that? What about DNA test is so threatening? Unless your entire state is built on ethnic purity and the idea that you are native to the land that you're trying to steal. And if anyone were to take a DNA test, they would find out that the people that they're mass murdering to steal the land from are more genetically related closely to the people who have historically, generationally, for 4,000 years, 5,000 years lived on that land.
If you are of Latin American descent and you have these surnames in your tree, you might just have Sephardic Jew in you. And if you can prove lineage and connect this to Portugal, then you actually qualify to get Portuguese citizenship, which is like a golden ticket in my opinion, because they're a European nation country, which means that you could live, work, and own property in any of the European nation countries. So let's get into it. If you've got Rodriguez with a Z, Nunes, De Silva, Pinto, Suarez, Lopez, Calderon, Enriquez, is that Enrique? I don't know. Enriquez? Whatever. Mendez with an S, Mercado, Nunes with a Z, Fernandez, De Lima, Duarte, Rivera, Navarro, Maya, De Toledo, De Lucina, and Leon. Now, check your trees. If you got those and you can prove your lineage, you can go online, look up how to qualify for Portuguese citizenship by descent, and contact a company that'll help you out and get yourself that citizenship.
DNA does not divide us. Every human on Earth can trace their mitochondrial DNA back to one woman in Africa. We look different, we speak different, we worship different, but under it all, we are all the same species with the same origin. Hate makes us forget that. Science reminds us. People obsess over DNA, race, borders, but DNA tells a different story. Every single human being alive today shares a maternal ancestor, a Black African woman known as mitochondrial Eve. That's not a myth, it's a genetic fact. We are all branches from the exact same tree. Our only difference is surface level adaptations to environment and history. So even if this were true, which it's not, it wouldn't matter anyway. The reason it's not true, this particular statement usually comes from fringe anti-Semitic sources that try to delegitimize the Jewish people and make the claim that most Jews are not real Jews. It's mostly used against Ashkenazi Jews, but it was definitely debunked by Stanford because Ashkenazi Jews, despite their European admixture, still retain substantial Middle Eastern DNA. But again, where do we come from?
That's why it's illegal in Israel to take a DNA test? What? Want to fully understand your family genealogy not without a court order in Israel? Huh. So there's a case where an Egyptian Palestinian figured out they had Jewish DNA, showing the two cultures are closer in ancestry than they believe. Huh. Israeli manufacturers of DNA kits can't even sell them in their own country. Huh. I wonder why Israel doesn't want their people taking DNA tests. Imagine what they'd find out. Your roots are from Eastern Europe. You are Russian. You are Ukrainian. Or God forbid, worst of all, you are Arab. If that doesn't say something to you all, I don't know what else to say. It's funny because, see, I did my DNA and I can show you guys that I'm from the land that the Jewish people claim is theirs. But I'm an Arab Christian. So what's that mean?
Is it true that
You know, as the saying goes, you can lie, but there will be a day that the truth will come out, and the truth will be so embarrassing, especially when there is something embarrassing that you are always trying to hide, especially when you are hiding under the masks, and the mask is that you're trying to portray yourself as somebody who you're not, and the group of people who are the real thing, you portray them as something else. This is a perfect example of majority of people that I'll say they have been lied to. They've been lied to, but at the same time, the same person that governs them don't want them to have or to take DNA tests. I think you already know what I'm talking about or who I'm referring to. because this is a lie that's told with a lot of people. And the person that proposed this rule, he knew that people are going to be finding the truth. That's why I've started by saying, just know that you are able to get away with lies, but there will be a time that it will catch up with you. And when it catches up with you, you will have nobody, because that's how you portrayed yourself. Perfect example is all these folks that call themselves, Jews. They call themselves Jews and, Jews, Jews, the way they call themselves Jews. But they think that people don't know the truth. Well, in fact, black people can give you a plethora of evidence trying to prove to you that you are not Jew. And those folks that are referring to themselves as Jews, they are in fact the Ashkenaz Jews. They are not the original Jews. They are not the original Jews. These are people that converted. I'm talking about the Ashkenazi. They converted and started practicing what real Jews were doing. But they are not the true Jews. They are not the original Jews, brothers and sisters. The moment people bring this discussion on the table, it is always a problem. Because, and I understand, this is one of those problematic topics. But at the end of the day, somebody got to talk about it. Somebody got to talk about them. Somebody got to address this issue. Because these are things that happen, you all. These are things that happen, and they affect majority of people, because people are walking with lies. The people are walking with lies don't want to accept the truth until they go take the DNA test and find out the truth. Brothers and sisters, I'm your host and presenter Aint TRUE Stories. And for those watching for the first time, I'm asking you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get to see what I can offer you. But until then, let's watch the video. I'll be back with my thoughts and commentaries in regards to this.
Genetic testing is outlawed there?
I believe that is true. I believe that's true. I double check me on that, but I believe it's true.
We
That
should
you
definitely
need like permission
right now.
from the government to go get DNA tests and stuff. Because I think, and I believe.
Well, this is the problem with the term Semitic.
Mm-hmm.
Because if these are European Jewish people, this is not the exact same genetics.
That's right. And
genetic testing
heavily
is
regulated.
Heavily. Direct-to-consumer tests for ancestry or paternity are highly restricted. Now, why would you highly restrict anything like that? If you want to if a human being has bodily autonomy and you want to find out where your ancestors came from, why wouldn't that be?
You know, the Israel project, or the Zionist project, always relied on this kind of claim, which is a crazy claim in a way. It's like a supernatural property right claim,
right.
That, like that you have this, which, if you go, there was that great documentary on the settlers in the West Bank, and they'll all tell you, to a man or to a woman, they focus a lot on that godmother of the settlers woman, but they'll all explain to you, like in very plain English with a Hebrew accent, that God promised them all this land. And so, God promised us all this land. So, I don't know who these other people are here, but God didn't promise it to them. He promised it to us. And so, that's kind of the claim, that we're the original people of this land. And so we have, a right to come back here. Now, forget for a second the fact that nobody conceives of property rights in this fashion in any other way.
Right.
Nobody thinks I could, come up with a DNA test and be like, oh, I've got some Ukrainian in here. All right, well, I'm going to march into Ukraine, knock on a door, and be like, this is actually my house because I was here 1,000 years ago. But
it's kind of crazy that you block evidence that's not really a good argument.
Well, let's just say, hypothetically, if, say, the truth is that the Jews of 2,000 years ago weren't actually kicked out of the land, but in fact, they were forced to convert, and that actually those people who you're saying were never promised the land are actually the people who were promised the land and then converted to Islam, and in fact you're just some European who came in here way after that. That, I'm just saying, hypothetically, if that was the case, that would be something that maybe you would want to control the information of.
Isn't that wild?
Before the Enlightenment period. And so let's go to the slides now. Just a sec, because I just need to say, in the 19th century, the idea of Jewish blackness was reinforced by the discovery of all of these actual black Jews in India and Africa all over the place. And by 1850, the main racial theorists of the day started saying that, yes, actually, Jews are Negroes. Negroes, in some way, are also Jews.
I would bet you if you did a DNA test for all the Palestinians and a DNA test for all the Israelis, the Palestinians have more actual genetic ties to that landmass than the Israelis, who are mostly Eastern European. This is every prime minister of Israel. First one, David Gurion, real name David Grun, born in Poland. Next one, Mashi Sheret, real name Mashi Shurtok, born in Ukraine. Then Levi Eshkol, real name Levi Shkolanik, born in Ukraine. Next one, Yigal Alon, real name Yigal Paikovich. Next one, Golda Meir, real name Golda Mabovich, born in Ukraine. Next one, Manichin Begin, real name Mazi Chekslaw Begum, born in Ukraine. So I can go on and on and on. Almost every single one of them has a fake name, and nearly every single one of them is actually from Eastern Europe. Even Netanyahu's real name is Mylakovsky.
You probably heard how these are the real Jews. But what if I told you something different? Hold up, let's check in the book of Deuteronomy. Hear, O Yasharal, Yahuwah our Eluah, Yahuwah is one. And the real Yahudim, or Jews, should also know to revere Yahuwah your Eluah and serve him and swear by his name. So if the real Yahudim, or Jews, are supposed to revere Yahuwah and swear by his name, why are they telling you it's not okay to proclaim the true name of Yahuwah, our Eluah? And he's the one that also says, you shall remember Yahuwah, your Eluah. So if they're supposed to remember Yahuwah, their Eluah, why are they not proclaiming the true name? Because they're not the true Yahudim. The true Yahudim were actually scattered amongst the nations, and they forgot their true identity. We know that's true because in the book of Deuteronomy, Yahuwah tells us exactly what he's going to do to his chosen set-apart nation if they keep transgressing against his covenant. That's what the whole book of Deuteronomy is about. And Yahuwah shall scatter you among all peoples, from one end of the earth to the other, and there you shall serve other mighty ones, instead of the true one, for Yahuwah is our Eluah, and Yahuwah is one. Again, he says, Yahuwah shall scatter you among all peoples, from one end of the earth to the other. Is that not what happened to the black people? He says, I said, I shall blow them away. It should make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. What's the remembrance of the Israelites that are about to get scattered if they transgress the law or the covenant that Yahuwah gave them? Their remembrance is that Yahuwah is one. Remember, they're the ones that brought monotheism to the other nations. And their remembrance is to revere Yahuwah and serve him and swear by his name. So when he scattered them amongst the nations, he made them forget who they are and their purpose and their remembrance. I should make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. They will forget who they are, and the other men, they know who they are, but they don't know. So they took their truth and converted it, had the scriptures, took the name out, and replaced it with titles like Lord. When if they just kept the covenant with Yahuwah, their Eluah, this would have never happened. But what does scripture say what's going to happen to them in the end times? Let's find out. This is important. Then Yahuwah, your Eluah, shall turn back your captivity and shall have compassion on you. He shall turn back and gather you from the peoples where your Eluah has scattered you. He's saying he's going to bring back his people that he has scattered. So these people will soon wake up to who they are after being blinded by Yahuwah. But in the end times, they're going to wake up to remembrance that Yahuwah is their Eluah and Yahuwah is one. But that raises the questions, where did these people even come from then if they're nowhere near in scripture? Comment part 2 if you want to figure out where these people came from. Barak Yahuwah, hallelujah.
Jewish is not an ethnicity. Jewish is religion. Because in Jewish, you're an Israelite by your mother. That's why y'all won't do the DNA test, because if y'all start taking that DNA test, you're going to see a lot of y'all are not the Jews. When the Lord divided the nations in Genesis 10 and 32, the Japhetic line had their own line, so they would have their own genetic markers.
Yeah.
Shemitic line have their own lines, so they would have their own genetic markers. You take a DNA test that says you go back to Ashkenaz, that's a different family line than the family line that the Israelites come from. So you can't be from the family line of Shem and the family line of Japheth genetically if you believe in the Bible, because the Lord divided them.
Have you ever heard that today's Jews aren't the real Jews? Let me break this down as bare bones as possible. Remember Esau from the Bible, Jacob's evil twin brother? Well, during Maccabean rule, many of his descendants, known as Edomites, assimilated into Judean culture, religion, and society. Remember King Herod? Well, he was one of them. But some anti-Semites today, particularly those from the radical camps of the Hebrew Israelite movement, teach that these Edomite converts are the ancestors of modern Jews, or at least Ashkenazim, making Ashkenazi Jews fake Jews, claiming that Edomite Jews went to Europe, while real Jews went to Africa. So what's the deal? Hundreds of thousands of Jews were exiled and enslaved throughout the Roman Empire, which included parts of Europe and Africa. And there's nothing to indicate the Roman slavers differentiated between Jews based on belief and ethnic background. By casting the Jewish people as converts from Israel's ancient enemy, it feeds into the idea that the Jewish people are trying to steal the biblical heritage. Remember, Esau wanted to steal back the birthright of Israel from Jacob. This is the perfect lie, the perfect distortion of history to justify this version of replacement theology. So the next time you hear someone refer to Jews as Edomites, you'll know how to respond.
So here's a fun fact for you. DNA tests are actually forbidden in Israel. Yes, I said the word forbidden. The only way you can get a DNA test done is through a court order, and they have to verify that you have valid reasons to want to know your DNA. I'm sorry, I mean your ancestry. Like, you can't even make this shit up. Like, that is an actual law in the state of Israel. And you really have to ask yourself, why would a country have that in the first place? If you claim so hard that this land is rightfully yours and you can trace your DNA back to that land, why ban DNA tests? They know that a lot of Palestinians will be able to trace their DNA to that area. They also know that a lot of Jews wouldn't be able to do that. And yes, you're absolutely right. They know that a lot of Palestinians and Jews would share the same DNA.
I'll tell you something. The Jews are chosen. We, the Jewish people, are chosen.
You claim to be Jewish, but you're not Jewish. I never claim to be Jewish.
Those in Israel who call themselves Jews, or those anywhere who call themselves Jews or Israelites, are not Jews. They're not religious Jews. They're not ethnic Jews. They have no connection with the ancient Israelites who were Yahweh's chosen people. There's no connection whatsoever. We have to understand that.
Here's a little fucking lesson for everybody. The true Jews are the black people, the Hebrew Israelites, the ones that everybody says, oh, they're no. Some of them get lost and say that they're only saved because of their skin. That's not true. Everyone is saved when everyone admits those people were the ones that were enslaved all throughout time. Then you cling to their lineage, not them, but to the father of them. Yahusha was a bronze-skinned man. The Jews of now are white people claiming to be black people. It is a lie. They even changed the definition of that in the dictionaries. But when you recognize that, and you recognize that they were enslaved, then you can truly have truth, so you can be accepted by the Father. His name is Yahuwah. The whole J or Jew term was conned by the Khazarians, the Germans, and the Ashkenazis. And it's a lie. You're not saved by skin, you're saved by faith. But you have to recognize what skin had it. Shem was a dark man. That's it. Stop feeling guilty and just read.
White people. Israel is a land that God gave through Abraham to a people that he chose. It was a people, a place, and a purpose.
I'm not going to let you off on this because you have said it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. And so it is entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15, as I have many times. And that land, I think it says, from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
Just being Jewish, you have what they call a birthright to go to Israel on them, a free trip, and you can also become a citizen there anytime. Like, you have a right to Israel. Yet, the people living in that land for hundreds of years before the Zionist project have no right to return to their homes. They have them, they still have keys, some of the older ones there to their homes, and they have no right to go back to it, which is just so wild to me. But anyway, that's kind of neither here nor there.
This is Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. This is his son, Yair Netanyahu. Yair was supposed to be drafted into the so-called war and was supposed to join Zionist forces in the fighting. However, Yair decided to dodge the draft, where 350,000 reserve soldiers were called upon to go back to the Zionist entity and serve. Yair fled to Miami to hide out. This is Yair Netanyahu's DNA test that has been leaked. You can see right there his Y DNA is RM198. Descendants of RM198 come from Poland, Russia, Germany, and other European countries. Does this look Semitic to you? Does this look Middle Eastern? Nope, it looks like a colonizer. Benjamin Netanyahu is actually Polish, his real name being Benzion Malachowski. He changed his name to Netanyahu to sound more Middle Eastern or more foreign, I don't know. Both of his parents were in fact born in Poland, and all of his family ancestry and obviously his DNA comes from Poland. Netanyahu added this bit into his Wikipedia page, which I find really funny. It says, while his family is predominantly Ashkenazi, he has said that a DNA test revealed that he has some Sephardic ancestry. If you didn't know, Sephardic were the Spanish Jews that were originally from the Middle East. But how is Benjamin Mikołowski claiming that he has Sephardic ancestry when his son's DNA is literally Polish? Zionists try so hard to be Middle Eastern, it's embarrassing to say the least. Not only do they change their last names, but they also lie about their DNA.
So they have discovered the connections of the languages, they have discovered the connection of the peoples, right? DNA analysis, because there's a DNA called E1B1A.
What's that?
That's just a DNA, just the way you check DNA for the father of a child and all that. So it keeps narrowing things down. So that E1B1A is the DNA of someone that is supposed to be a Hebrew, and that's what you have in Africans mostly.
We have that DNA.
I will never forget the first time I went to Israel and I stepped off the plane and the first thing that anyone said to me was, "Welcome home." I wasn't told welcome home because my ancestors were from Israel. I was told welcome home because I'm Jewish. Every single person who's Jewish that steps off the plane, especially for their first time in Israel, is told welcome home. Let's just sit with that for a second. This right here, this is my actual ancestry. I am 88% Ashkenazi Jewish, and none of my ancestors are from the Middle East. Zionist ideals and beliefs are far more based in colonization, imperialism, and just white supremacy culture than it is in truth and history and ancestry. The land that is called Israel now is not my home. It's not my ancestors' home. It's Palestinian.
It's not because they're Jews, it is because they're white. Those colonizers that are in Palestine now, they're from Europe. Period. When black Jews wanted to then join the Jews that are there now in Palestine, they were actually told that they had to go back to Africa when Israel was made into a nation state. So if it was not rooted in white supremacy, then how come all Jews weren't allowed to be in the land? Because, in fact, it is rooted in white supremacy.
In America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. You know, so what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is most likely there is something there. And most likely maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today who are white Caucasian people came in a little bit later on. We know that some of the greatest sages of the transmission of the Torah were converts. Africa has perhaps hundreds of millions of people with this identity right now of being from the people of Israel. Does that mean they were from the 10 tribes? Likely not. We were taught by the historians and within our own traditions that when the Romans conquered Judea, a few hundred years after that the tribes of Israel went into exile, perhaps millions of Judeans were sold into slavery. into Africa, into Rome, deep into Africa. And if you look now, you're seeing people who are most likely the descendants of those slaves who kept true. I like to bring up a few specific examples because they're going to be game changers. One of them wrote letters to Israel when it became a state. And they said, we're Israelites out in Africa. You know, everyone laughed at them and they said, African Israelites, these people are just trying to jump on the first world country bandwagon. They're living in a third world country, they got nothing. We're coming to Israel, we got innovation, technology. So they're trying to get on this train because there's such a thing called the right of return. All descendants of the Jewish people from around the world are able to move to Israel. So they said we are also. And everyone kind of laughed at them, like I said. And a few people took it serious and went out there and started studying them, learned about their culture. And a professor from Duke University went out there and did DNA testing on them. And he showed not only do they share Semitic genes from people who were in Yemen and back to the Middle East, these gentlemen, a large percent of them, have the Y chromosome to be Kohanim, to be priests. Now, if anyone who doesn't know, a priest is a specific family clan of the nation of Israel who come from Aaron, the brother of Moses, who was the first priest. And anyone descended from Aaron has the status title priest. And we found that these men in this village in South Africa called Lemba, L-E-M-B-A, carry this genetic marker to let us know that they share the same as from the Sephardic and the Ashkenaz and the population of the people in Israel today. They share the same exact DNA marker. That's mind-blowing. So everyone kind of got humbled a little bit who laughed at them and said, now what? Now what do we do about this? This could have tremendous implications. Another area in Africa you have something big happening is in Nigeria. You have the Igbo people.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. Again, I'm your host and presenter Eugene Textoris. It's a beautiful day that God has granted unto us so that we can have a discussion in regards to all these things that are going on. Now, anytime you will ever try to do something and then your government is trying to stop you from doing that thing, then get to know that there is something that they are trying to hide. You say that that thing is so useful to you, or the opposite. Majority of the time, it's the opposite. Because when you know the truth about yourself, you start embracing yourself. Majority of people have lived 100 years of lies, 1,000 years of lies. History is being taught about them, being lied about them. But the folks that know the true history, the folks that know their true origin, they suppress the truth. And they're always trying not to make this information to reach other groups of folks. Because now, the truth will be exposed, and then they'll start asking them questions. So, you know, that's how it goes. Some of these folks are shocked to realize that they do not own that identity that they have been given. Some of these folks are shocked about it. And when you just think about it, it's true. Majority of these folks have lived lies. And that explains as to why some of their leaders don't want them to take them tests, because the test will reveal the truth. And majority of the time when they get to have the test, after denying, because they are indoctrinated, let me use the word indoctrinated, they have been taught, they have been educated to believe that there's something else, to believe that there's something that they are not. So a person goes ahead and, you know, they take the test. And you know what happened? Boom. Surprise, surprise. You ain't the person that you thought you are. While so many years in schools, they have preached, they have taught how black people, to be specific, they do not belong, or they are not Jews, or they're not related to that. So you see, when you start saying things like this, when you start looking at things like this, it makes you question a number of things about the reality, about the true history, about everything that you have always been told. Because you get to realize that you've lived so many times in lies, and just the light is coming, and you realize that this is just the truth. The moment you're getting to learn the truth, I think it's never the same. Cognitive dissonance. You go through what is called cognitive dissonance. The reality between the two, it's like a dilemma. You've lived a lie, but now you've been hit by the truth. Now you're starting to see the truth. And it becomes so much difficult for you to accept the truth, because all of your life, you've been taught, you've been indoctrinated to believe that you are somebody who is not you. One thing is for sure, the Most High knows who his people are. You cannot fool him. His people in the world will not have their land, army, weapons, or wealth. Those claiming to be have all that. That's why they claim young black men are the biggest threat, because we are waking up now. And I told you, God's chosen people are just waking up, and everyone is just getting to start to see the reality. The reality just hits at home, because the moment they thought that they're going to be getting away with lies, it doesn't last for a long time, brothers and sisters. It comes up in the light where everyone sees the truth. I think all white people or pale-colored people have some explaining to do. If every landmass started out black, how can anybody with white skin be native to any land when you just got here later over 6,000 years ago? Make that make sense. Middle East is a newly made up term for the British, Germany, America, etc. In Northeast Africa, we need the damn truth. Be wise, melanated people. Do not share what you're thinking in these posts. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. These posts are meant to keep you in a loop of drama. So, we have a group of people that subscribe to the truth. And we have a group of people that say that they just wanna know the truth. But I believe to enlighten other people is important, because you get to take away people from the darkness. Because let me tell you, we have black people that don't know, because they were always lied to. Majority of us Africans, we think that we know ourselves, but we have been told our versions in the lenses of the oppressor. So what do you expect? It makes sense. Black people are much spiritual than other groups. A few months ago, a woman did a challenge pretending to be a mother who needed milk for her baby, and called religious organizations, and the results were that overwhelmingly it was black churches, followed by Muslims organization. I think I saw that. Willing to give without expectation of anything back. The other organization required you to already belong to them and or be advised to her to go to the organization for help. I saw that test, and it was really a good one, because it exposed everything that really happened, and everything that we really think some of these people are. The Caucasian Edomite people always know that we are the Hebrew Israelites, black people. We are black. We black people always have known who we are as a chosen peculiar people. The difference today, we are saying it loud. That's the difference. This is us, absolutely. I'm a Hebrew Israelite Jew from the southern kingdom, from the tribe of Judah, which means praise, and from the tribe of Benjamin, which means son of my right army, kidnapped, stolen from the Canaan, which is modern-day Israel, and scattered to the four corners of the world during the transatlantic slave trade. So, please let me know what you all think about this, right? As you know, I'm your host and presenter, Agent Stories. But until then, I'm hoping to see you around and see you in my next video. Until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.